Today is Wednesday, February 28th at 6 p.m. We are in the City Hall meeting room and we were live on Zoom. The Public Safety Commission meeting. We will call this meeting to order and I will make a couple statements real quick. This meeting is being recorded by the Public Safety Commission. If anyone other than the city or the commission is recording this meeting, you must notify the chair at this time. Is anybody online or here recording the meeting? All right. According to Mass General Law 30A, Section 20, no person shall address the meeting of the public body with all permission of the chair. And all persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of a public body. If after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting. And if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize the constable or other officer to remove the person from the meeting. All right, I will take a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Birch,
Present.
Commissioner McMahon,
Present.
Commissioner Jarvis,
Present.
Commissioner Lanoy with an A,
Present.
Dave Moscaritolo, present. All right. Welcome, folks. I'm going to reverse these two for a minute and 4 and 5, if that's okay with the commissioners. And ask if anybody has public comment they would make first in the room. Would anybody like to speak publicly? Come on up and just introduce yourself. And all public comment is welcome.
Hello, my name is Wahab Minas. I'm a counselor on the city council here. I'd just like to say on behalf of the city council that we appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and the change in the department is welcomed a lot by the community right now. The amount of calls and emails that I've gotten in support of the new administration is huge. So thank you, Officer Dodge. And we look forward to working with you guys. So be transparent as possible, be cooperative as possible. We're here to listen you out. So thank you.
All right, thank you for coming. Thank you for the statements. And congratulations on your new post on the council. All right, anyone else in the room? All right, anybody on Zoom? Turn your TV, your camera on, and I think we're off mute. Who that top person is? Let me see. Somebody just joined. Yeah, she's not gonna be. Okay. I'll take it that nobody on Zoom wants to make public comment at this time, and we'll continue. All right, so we will move on to approve the last meeting minutes in January. If I could get a motion in a second, if we are ready to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion on the January meeting minutes? Okay, we can all say yes or nay if you approve them. Approved? Approved. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Meeting minutes for January approved. They'll be sent to City Hall to be put on our site. Okay, we'll move on to item 6. So we have to have a little bit of a reorganization discussion. We have discovered that one, the Public Safety Commission was supposed to do the charter says we will reorg the first month of the fiscal year, not the first month of the year. Now, all other commissions and councils do it in January. I don't know why we're the only ones that do it in July. I'd like to get it changed back to January at some point in time, but we missed the July reorg, and we had a reorg this January. So I did speak with the clerk, and it's pretty simple. We have 2 options. We can vote to use the January reorg that we just did to make up for the one we missed in July, and leave it at that. And then we will have a reorg this coming July, or we could vote to renege our January vote and go back to whoever was in positions before the January vote. So
I'd like to make a motion.
you can make a motion.
There we go. Nobody has any discussion.
We will have a discussion after the motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we that we keep the members in office as of January 24th meeting, I think it was the 24th, until July 2024, where we'll have another meeting.
Okay,
second the motion.
all right. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? No? Okay, great. Thank you. That was an easy one. That was
You're all
easy.
set.
It works out, whatever way.
Sorry for that. Let me apologize. I'm sorry for so.
We're all one team here. So, you know, whatever we wanted to work out, we worked out, but I did have to bring it up. So it was official. All right, monthly updates.
I won't say you wouldn't listen to me on January and July.
All right, we'll go on to monthly updates. Kimberly, you're on, right? Kim?
Hi, sorry about that. Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Are you prepared to go over the, your data on Zoom or
Yes.
can you do that? Okay, great. So Kimberly, why don't you give us your updates for emergency services? And she
You
did
got
send
it.
these, she did send these out. I'm not sure if you sent them out to just me, but if you did, I'll make sure they get to the other commissioners after the meeting.
Yes, I believe I only sent it to you. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'll forward it right now, actually.
All right. So January was a pretty busy month for us. We had 484 emergency requests for service. Just under 300 of those resulted in transports. And 79.6% of those had a less than 10-minute response time. So those are pretty solid goals that we've been meeting continuously. Big change or addition to our capabilities starting in February is the go live of Nero's Law, which is the ambulance regulation now that we are able to transport an injured canine, police canine, that is. So we've been doing a lot of training with a couple of local veterinarians that have been coming out to help us, as well as the police canines down in Springfield have been involved directly in the training. So we have 2 more classes left, but otherwise we've trained just over 350 people in the last couple of weeks. So we're gearing up and ready to go. The equipment has been ordered and is ready to go on the trucks. So that's pretty new and exciting. We've been waiting quite a few years for this to go live. Aside from that, we're pretty much business as usual. No big complaints that we've received in the Greenfield area recently. So also great. Franklin's been keeping us busy with transports down to the main campus as well of Greenfield residents that might need higher levels of care. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from commissioners? Is there a number of canines that need to be transported? Like average, like, just curious.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to tell because until 2 weeks ago, it was against the law to transport an animal in an ambulance. So the hope would be no. It all came after the incident on Cape Cod, where the officer was unfortunately killed and the dog was severely injured. And there was nothing in place to say who could transport the animal, who had training for assisting the canine, as well as any sort of equipment to render aid. So it's super new. One service in Central Mass has used Nero's Law so far and transported one of the canines, but aside from that, I don't know of any others that have yet.
All right, great. Well, let's hope you don't have to use it, but I think we all feel great that you're prepared, so thank you. Any other questions for Kim? All right, thank you, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your time. All right, we will move on. Fire department, if you want to step up to the plate and can you, I'm asking everybody that comes up and sit to announce who you are and where you're from, just for we all know you in the room, but somebody online who might not, so.
Sure. Bob Strand. I am the Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director for the City of Greenfield.
Welcome.
I will pass out monthly reports from December. 2, 3, and 1, 2. We've gone over these. We went over these, but I just we didn't get a chance to put it into an official report, so I won't go over the report again, but it is there. And then January's report. So January's report, just, one of the things we did highlight, I'm gonna highlight again, in this report, is that last year, calendar year, was our fourth or fifth consistent year of the highest level of calls we've ever done. So our call volume is going up and up and up. It's not going backwards or staying the same. But we are seeing an increase, ever increase in our call volume. So for the month of January, let me see here, give me 1 second, it's on the back. There were a total of 272 calls. 75% of them were rescue or EMS calls. It's not just EMS, but rescue calls. That includes motor vehicle accidents and things like that. And then the breakdown is there. We talked about the small airplane crash last month's meeting because it happened just before the meeting, so I won't go into that. But that was a notable event. And then obviously we talked about last month the passing of paramedic Bob Manners. Service for Bob is this Sunday at GCC. It should be quite the memorial service and celebration of life. So I'm honored to be a part of that, the crew that's putting that together and running that service for Bob. It should be a pretty good showing of emergency responders throughout the county. And if you get a chance, I believe it starts at 11 o'clock. So that's what I have for reports. And I wanted to get right into a couple things before I get into this. The chairman has asked about our complaint process and if we've had any complaints, and we've done the background and I did forward a complaint right after he mentioned to me and trying to tighten up getting the information back about complaints against the fire department. We haven't had any, and he talks to me the next day. I get a complaint. The complaint was not about Greenfield Fire. It was about a neighboring agency. So it's just funny that happened, but it wasn't about the fire department. So my purpose of bringing that up is that we have updated our policies, internal policies, including the creation of a new complaint log that will be available for commissioners should we receive any complaints against either driving or personnel or anything like that. Obviously, if it's under investigation and whatnot, there may be some limitations to that. But we are working at trying to do this commission's request on being better logging the complaints and getting it back to this commission. So it's a work in progress.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So I do have some items here that I want to give everybody. This is the budget request for next fiscal year. This is the operating budget that I'm handing you now. With that, give me 1 second. This is a breakdown of the salary line items for the budget, which is your first line item. This is broken down how many positions we have within the department. And next year's fiscal request. The request for personnel for next year, the only changes that I have put in for consideration is we have a fire prevention admin assistant. It's been huge having that position, but part-time's not enough. So we're looking at if there's a possibility to expand that to full-time. And then the other big change is you'll notice that there is a deputy chief's position. That amount that's there is the difference between a captain and a deputy chief. The intent is to, if approved, finally get a deputy chief back within the department. It will come out of a captain's position And so the captain will be an upgrade and it won't be a brand new position. So we will eliminate a captain's position, not eliminate, we will upgrade the captain's position if this is approved and hopefully finally get the deputy chief's position back in the department. I could use the help, so. So those are the big changes within salaries. Any questions on that?
So Chief, just for clarification, so you're proposing upgrade without a back.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the difference in that is
Yeah.
the 45,000.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sure we'll go over next meeting, in more detail, line by line, or do you want to do that tonight?
I would like us to be able to digest it and then,
That's what I
you
figured.
know, come back to the table if all the other commissioners are okay with that.
So you have, the first document I gave you was our operating budget. The second document that I'm going to give you now is the emergency management document for the, request for funding for next year's budget. And again, we'll get into all this at a separate meeting, but I just want you to have the information ahead of time. The next one I'm going to hand out is the revolving account for fire prevention. This is an account that is of fees for inspections and permits that come into the department. That's the revolving budget for that. And lastly, the revolving budget for revenues for the operation of the ambulance out of the firehouse. Lots of information, but why I wanted to get it to you ahead of time so you can digest it at your own leisure. I am available for questions at any time, and we'll talk, I'm sure, in depth at another meeting. Just wanted you to have all the information.
I have to go hear the school budget.
Any questions?
Can you remind us when the mayor has received the budgets, correct?
Yes.
Okay, when did she go in front of the council for the budgets?
The process is spelled out in the charter, and I don't know it verbatim. But what happens is we do our budgets by the end of January, submits to the finance department and the mayor. Finance director makes comments, then goes to the mayor. The mayor then makes comments after speaking with the department heads. And then they forward that to city council. I think it's due within a month and a half. It's pretty close. Where this commission is supposed to fall in is we really should have that discussion, full department budget discussion, either in January or February at the latest in March. March may be a little bit too late because by that time,
Yeah,
the recommendation, the flow that's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to give you folks, once I created my budget and submitted it to the city, then you folks get the budget, and then we have the discussion. You make a recommendation to the mayor, and that helps the mayor make her determination of whether or not she wants to continue with the funding or change the funding or whatever.
all right, so we still have time to review it. We just need to review it quickly and then we could get our comments to.
Yep.
If we don't make it before the next meeting, we can still input comments.
Correct.
To the administration or to the departments.
Correct. This, I will tell you that there are some increases within the budget. Most of the increases are contractual or cost of services. There are certain services that we use that historically they get annual increases. Other than that, there's no new programs. There's no new positions outside of the positions that I've already mentioned. And we really tried to do our best to come in at as close to what we were budgeted last year. Unfortunately, with all the increases, that wasn't possible. But that was our instructions and that is what we tried to do. So you'll see very little increases in line items. And if you go back, that's probably the case for the last several years.
Okay.
Most of it's contractual increases, especially in the salary line items.
So Chief, where are you generally speaking across the board on an increase to keep everything paid for without anything new? 3%, 4%, 5%?
I think that has it in this report. I will get you that report. The bottom line is, I'm not sure the salary line item has seen, it's about, this is that one item with salaries, about 7 or 8%. And that is the addition of the deputy chief, some contractual increases for the firefighters and adding another halftime hours for our clerk.
The reason I raise that is so the public sometimes, so they deserve to know where we spend our money. But if you take your budget and do nothing different from year to year, it increases.
Correct.
And so I think it's sort of our job to help explain that to the public, that even costs that you call fixed aren't really fixed because the electric bill goes up, things break. But generally speaking, a lean government budget has an increase from year to year.
That's correct.
And of course, people see a budget increase. Well, why am I paying more? So, you know, it's not enough to say, well, that's just the cost of doing business. But for us to be able to educate folks about that is important because it's just a reality. If we're having inflation and a product is purchased for dispatch or the police department or the fire department, it's going to be exponentially more costly. Utilities are exponentially going up. And then without giving people contract-based raises, they're going to get step raises. So I like to put that into the mix and make sure people understand that that is, you know, that's in the ordinary course of business before anything else is added.
That's correct.
And, you know, it used to be, I mean, I haven't done budgets in a while, but it used to be 3 to 5% on a public sector budget year to year.
Yeah. So our salaries, you hit the nail on the head. We have a younger department.
Right.
And so in the firefighters contract, they get step increases for years of service. And so a big portion of my department, unlike when Eddie was here, a lot of them are stepping. And that's why you see such a big,
Those are what, 2.5%, right?
depending on the step.
Depending on where they are. Yeah.
Yep. So the overall budget is, from just the fire department side of the house, is an increase of 5.4%
There you go.
overall. You'll notice that in the budget, there looks like repair and maintenance of vehicles has a 40% increase, or an $8,000 increase.
Right.
It looks much higher from the percentage on some of them. And then we have another line item that is, let me find it here, $53,000 that we've eliminated 100% of it. And that was for a stipend that the firefighters will no longer be receiving as of July, maybe May. But overall, the increase is about 5%.
So
Each-
5%, and this is where, and thank you for coming, you know, because I want to work with everybody and the council so that those kinds of questions are just answered.
No.
So that 5.4% reflects a level budget,
Level service.
level, right?
Yeah. With the addition of yes, it's level service with the addition of the two positions we talked about. And the way that the firefighters contract is written, every couple of years they go up a step. The step's, I think, around 3% for each, in between each step, which is pretty common in the public sector, if you will. So any questions about that? The other one, very, very much smaller budget, but it does show a pretty 12% increase is the budget for, emergency management. And that's just because of, services are increasing, for, emergency management. One of them being, we have a reverse 911 system, that this budget pays for. Some insurances costs have gone up, that come out of that category. So that's why you see a little bit of an increase in that. Oh, I'm sorry, that was fire prevention. I looked at the header. Sorry. Bear with me a second. I only had 5 copies of that. Can you pull out the fire prevention one? I mean, emergency management. Yes. Thank you, sir. So yes, so the increase is purchase of service of civil defense. It's gone from 13,000 to 16,000, or 23% increase. The overall budget is still 26,000. So, but that $3,000 increase, the biggest increase in there is services for reverse 911.
You gave us an extra one, so that one was your.
Oh, thank you. You were wondering why I couldn't find it. So I'll take any other questions on that. And I hope, I look forward to having a more in-depth conversation about it. If there is a line item that raises a question or you have any concerns about, please, reach out to me or send me an email and I'll have it ready for the next meeting.
So, yeah, I just think that we're not gonna make, because city council meets before we meet. So will we be on time to make any?
I'm not sure the city council,
They don't vote
votes on the budget in March.
No.
No,
in March, but yeah,
They vote in
April?
May.
May.
It's
Okay,
in the charter. It is going to be,
it's gonna be close.
It's gonna be close. And
the
what,
commission wants to have an input about the mayor's decision, the sooner the later would be better. Sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because I think she is pretty much going to be wrapped up with her part of the budget by the end of next month. So the commenting's time, I think, is going to be tight. So,
and we can, outside of the meeting, if you have questions, we can.
Oh, no, I don't have
Questions on, it, give me the answer, but we might, we'll be able to comment for next meeting when we have this in front of us. It's just that what has to really happen moving forward is we have to have the understanding that we have to have these in our hands earlier. So we have the time to follow the charter and process them correctly. So it gives us a chance. So we have to make sure, next year that the timing actually happens the way it's supposed to happen.
so you did receive it in as quick as we could, because like I said, the end of January is when the budgets are due to the city. So it's after that, then.
It is what it is. Things happen and reality is reality, but we have it now. We could take a look at it and we can comment from there. Just a quick question on the upswing of the calls.
Yep.
Most of them, is most of the upswing fall under, in rescue and emergency medical, or, have you trended to see what calls there's been an increase in?
So we specifically haven't done it for this last calendar year. The previous calendar year, it was across the board.
Okay,
Every category was,
Increased.
we see increases.
I was just curious to know if there was one particular.
Yeah, no, it's, definitely, the rescue side of the house is, Kim will tell you, they've seen it on their numbers. Their numbers just keep going up and up. So
It's like it. All right, well, thank you, Chief.
busy. Yeah.
Thank you for your
So-
time.
So before I wrap up, I just want to give you a couple updates on a couple initiatives that we're working on. The first one, which is one that's very near and dear to my health, and we've been talking about it for months now, is the mental health of our responders. and where we're going with trying to do better with that. At the county level, it's been brought up at our meeting this week, and we're looking at different alternatives to provide different mechanism for when somebody's needs help, how to get that help, and we've got a pretty good handle on that. What I am happy to report is we had a traumatic incident that happened last night, and the police department have initiated, and if I'm taking your thunder, I apologize, but have initiated a critical incident stress debrief for tomorrow. And working with our responders that are there, it's a huge step, and I'm so happy that our agencies are all getting involved in working on the mental health of our firefighters. Like I said yesterday at the chiefs meeting, when I was doing my presentation on it, unfortunately, firefighters get killed in the line of duty. And I asked the fire chiefs how many had experienced that. And there's very few of us, thank God, in Franklin County that have experienced that. And then I asked, how many of you had firefighters that committed suicide? And in Franklin County, the number for a small county in small departments is, it's not, it's 3, 4. I worked with a firefighter that committed suicide. And so I don't ever want to experience that again. So every month I'm going to be, if indulged to, I will be talking about our next steps for improving the health and wellness of our public safety officials, police and fire. It's near and dear to my heart, and it's an initiative that is I want to work on a little bit more. So thank you for that again. And that's all I have. So,
New station update?
oh, great question. All the furniture is in. It is set up. Most of the furniture is set up. We actually moved in some pictures and hung on the wall. The kitchen is stocked with all the kitchen supplies. And so the upper part, or the A part of the building, should be completed by the end of next week. The apparatus floor, another month and a half. The apparatus floor is getting a coating on it, a non-slip coating. The electrical has to be finished up in the apparatus bay, but within 2 months that should be done. The only holdup is we've received the switch gear, which is exciting because that came in a month and a half or close to 2 months early. However, there is a transfer switch, one smaller switch that has not come, and it doesn't look like that is going to be within the next month, probably 2 months from now. Once that's done, they'll power up the building and we should be in good shape. I was hoping April, reality, probably May. We're working hard to figure out to try to pin down a better date, because once we move, we have to do the demob of our current facility as quick as possible, because there is a financial burden that goes along with that. And it's our goal that as soon as we're out, we shut that down. They come take the tents and the trailers, and we stop that annual payment. I mean, that monthly payment.
Exciting.
And for those out there that don't know the difference, what the transfer switch is, a transfer switch transfers the power from the emergency generator to the station without having to run out, plug in an extension cord, basically. So
Yeah.
very important piece of equipment to have.
Yeah, so our generator is delayed for the project as well, but once the power is turned on, we'll have a temporary generator. The contractor will pull in a temporary generator. It's absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to show it off to the public. I can't wait to everybody that's watching tonight have the opportunity to go see it and walk through it. It's the city is going to be very proud of the building. Yeah. That's what I have.
One of my former employees became a Greenfield firefighter, and he was the first responder to a fatal car accident from another of our employees. And I just want to say that I really appreciate that you are on this mental health attention, because I can only imagine what that felt like for him to see somebody he'd worked with. I want to say a good 5 or 6 years, like in that car. And I know that happens to you guys more than the public knows.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to pull up on a tragedy to somebody that, you know, not in a small community like us. Yes, we're a small city, but that's not uncommon. Yeah, we got to make sure that he has a long, healthy career. And, you know, one of the things that I preach is, you know, when a firefighter gets hurt and breaks an arm or a leg, it's an on-the-job injury and it's visible and you can see it. Firefighter suffers from post-traumatic stress because of a call like that. It's still an injury, right? It still affects that firefighter and that firefighter is not 100%. And just like we would for somebody that breaks an arm and put them in in a rehabilitation to get their strength up and work with them, we still got to start treating our mental health as an on-the-job, truly bona fide injury, because there's a lot of people that have suffered and has gone undiagnosed or unseen, and it's caused a lot of careers to be cut short. And our goal is to make sure that our people have long, healthy careers. So.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate your time. All right, I think we'll do dispatch first. That's okay?
Hi, I'm Cindy Hunter. I'm the dispatch supervisor for Springfield Police and Fire Dispatch.
Nice. Hi there.
Thank you. So I can give you the numbers for February. We had about 266 hours of overtime. About 60 hours of that was covered by our per diems. I am happy to say that we do have now 5 per diems. We hopefully will have 6 fairly soon. We do have one that just came out on maternity leave, so to speak, so she won't be taking shifts for a little bit, but congratulations to her. We do have Marcia Odell, who's joining us from Montague. She's the supervisor over there. She used to be a per diem for us. She stopped taking shifts for quite a few years, but she has come back to do some refresher shifts, so we're happy about that as well. And that definitely takes the burden off of the full-time dispatchers with some of the overtime. So new on shift, we actually have Patrick Dicott. He joined us in January. He went on shift at the beginning of February. It was very, very quick train. We were very happy with that. He caught on quick and he's been fantastic since he's been on shift full time. He's taken a lot of overtime, which we appreciate, of course. And we do have a new trainee, Melissa Younger. She's just joined us this month. She is on her, I believe, 3rd week of training. She's gone to APCO PST1 class, which is basically a 5-day class that gives you the basics, the bare bones of dispatching. And she's gone to 911 training as well. So she's certified with that. And so she's working with our trainers on night shift right now. We have found that putting them on the night shift first gives them the opportunity for hopefully a slower pace and call volume, and gives them the opportunity to get through all the programs and get everything before we put them on day shift for a little bit busier shift. And then finally we put them on 3 to 11, which is the make or break usually. So we're excited about that as well. So Melissa makes our 10th person. Our 10th position we call our vacation relief spot. Essentially covers long-term absences and vacations. That has, we've not been able to keep that position filled for a very long time, just for losing people over the years, and just staffing has not been great for us. But all 911 centers are experiencing that right now. I mean, that seems to be a common theme just across the country, but 911 centers in particular, for whatever reasons, are having staffing shortages. So we want to keep that 10th position filled. I know that there is, Chief Dodge and I have had a discussion for many months about an 11th position. We would like to add on an 11th position. That would free up some time for me to be able to do more administrative tasks. Unfortunately, I am on the desk full time, so there's not a lot of room for a lot of administrative things to get done. But we do need to keep that 10th position. And I know that there's been discussion, I guess, with the budget season, of course, coming up, how much we do need that 10th position. I can give you so I went through the numbers for 2023, and we had approximately 2,176 hours of overtime in that year. That equates to about 272 shifts of overtime. And one of the things that we found, and again, this is, I'm sure countrywide, but at least nationwide for 911 centers, is that you get to a point with your staffing where, you're just working your full-time dispatchers so hard, and there's so much overtime, and they're just getting burnt out. And that number I felt was quite surprising to me. So we're hopeful with this 10th position that will alleviate a lot of that burden from the full-time dispatchers. So you guys have been so supportive of us, and we definitely appreciate that. And so hopefully we'll keep that going.
What creates the overtime? Is it people that go out? I know it's a combination. It's a lot of factors, but is it, folks are calling in sick, going on vacation, injured,
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that is unique for us is that other departments most often or a lot of times have the staffing numbers where if you wanted to take a day off, it doesn't create an overtime. They have enough people to keep the shift going. Unfortunately, with us, we have 2 people on shift, which is required for safety reasons, first of all. And so anytime that there's a day off requested, whether it's a sick day, a vacation day, we are allowed to earn comp time when we work overtime. So unfortunately, every time that a day off is asked for, it creates overtime, unfortunately. So, and we have people in our center now that have 3 and 4 weeks vacation. And so we have to take that into account again, as well as the comp time and, sicknesses. COVID, unfortunately, is still affecting us. We had a couple of dispatchers recently who were out with that for about a week. So that affects it as well. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. So the per diem folks are helping out filling in those slots, correct?
Yes.
So we don't have to pay overtime.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. They are paid at, depending on their experience, that determines their rate of pay. If they have more than 4 years experience, because we have 4 steps in our contract, they are paid top step. But definitely a lot less than if you're paying a full-time person overtime.
So the 10th person, you're calling the vacation long-term absence person, right?
Yes.
So if nobody ever called out or there's no injuries or no training or anything, you could get by with 9? Is this what you're saying? Or you're saying you'd like 11. So is the 10th person the vacation long-term absence person, or would it truly be if you had 11 people, one that on the staff full time, then how have we looked at how much the overtime would be reduced with what I'm asking is, have we looked at how much the overtime would be reduced in sync with the amount of staff we have? So can you clearly say if we had 12 people, we would never need overtime? I know that's an impossible question, but have we looked at the analytics for that and the data?
I have not looked at the numbers for that specific reason. I'd be more than happy to go back, and for the next meeting, I can give you specific numbers for that. We can theoretically run with 9 people. It does not make us short technically. That 10th person, again, is an extra person. When that person is not covering a long-term absence or a vacation or days off, that person normally works 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's their shift. They cover basically the second half of day shift, which is usually the most, the busiest. And then they cover the first half of 3 to 11, which is also usually our busiest time.
But I think why I'm asking the questions is because my concern is, number one, you're working the desk and you're managing the entire group.
Yes.
So then you start asking questions about, do you have enough time to set up training for folks? All the extra things that you need to do as a manager, and then it links to You know, how many people do you actually need to, I mean, we can go on forever and pay overtime. All the departments do.
Yeah.
You can see the fire departments, it's increased, you know,
Sure.
situations happen. I mean, nobody thinks about a plane crashing in Greenfield, right? Or something like that. But, you know, I think we need to start talking about realistically, what will it take to get the overtime rate down?
Mhm.
And, you know, keep it kind of steady. Like you're always going to have overtime. I get it. But, you know, 666 hours, you know, 1,176 hours. Is there a better way to do it? And maybe that better way might prevent some burnout,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, that
So
definitely
we need to look at all this stuff and talk. about it.
Absolutely.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
I just want to weigh in because those are skinny numbers.
Yeah.
If, and I would like to be doing this with all the departments. So if you consider the following things, so vacation relief, training, sick time, personal time,
Mhm.
FMLA.
Yep.
Miscellaneous,
Mhm.
emergencies. So if you're staffing 2 posts, 24 hours times 7 days with the amount of people you just discussed,
Mhm.
that's a little bit short of a miracle.
I
So,
would agree with you, yes.
right,
I think
so
the chief would
what
agree.
and again, toward, you know, about us. So if you come back and you say that the relief factor based on standard analysis, you know, how many FTEs does it take to fill 1 post 7 days a week, taking into account all these things? So again, people are initially surprised. Why do you have so many officers? Why do you have so many of these?
Right.
Why do you have so many of those? Because we provide a service 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
That's right.
And if you figure in all the normal things that happen in the human, you know, condition,
It's true.
and I'm just throwing this out because I didn't do a relief factor for you because I don't know the formula.
Gotcha.
But to fill 1 post for 7 days could be 3.2 FTEs.
Mhm.
And, you know, and again, the citizens, you know, they want services and they deserve services. And when we explain that, then they say, wow, okay. And then you can reduce overtime by, I don't think that you should have to sit on the desk and administer I mean, you're willing to
It can
do
be
that.
challenging.
right?
Yeah, it can be
So
challenging.
I think one of the goals for us this year should see to see a staffing analysis from all the department heads with your relief factors built in. Because that's realistic. You know, and then, you know, if we really want to have conversations about mental health, that's a place to start. And, you know, and I've lived this on both sides, and I've been on the side of having to say, yeah, to a captain who's making a schedule. If someone puts in for a personal day, they get the personal day. I bet you can't say that.
We can't say that every time.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. What's the
Yeah.
point of a personal day? People need to be able to leave their post to have a personal day. And so is that going to generate overtime? Sometimes. So I think overtime is going to be there. Can we reduce overtime? Yes. The answer to that is adequate staffing. And adequate staffing is going to cost more money. But in the long run, you're going to get better service, happier employees, more diligent attention to detail. And you're going to have a reduction in overtime. And I'm not going to try to say a percentage because then somebody's going to say, you said, okay. But, you know, I heard your presentations from, you know, day one and all of the presentations. I'm not seeing extravagance anywhere.
Yeah, we definitely don't have extravagance.
Right.
We are bare bones.
And I think we owe the public that we're not going to be extravagant. But, you know, there is that happy medium that we have to get to. And, you know, we can talk about this around the table. You run a business, you have to staff it. What do you need to get through the day? You know, and that's just, and that's the biggest part of a budget. But I don't want to see people burning out and having stress factors that are so bad that, you know, they make movies about them, like The Call.
Yeah.
Right? They make movies, and
Yes.
sometimes Hollywood gets it right.
Sometimes.
And so, you know, I would go to 11 automatically tonight without a staffing analysis, because it would generate a decrease in the overtime. But I bet it wouldn't meet whatever the relief factor is that you would need to do.
Well, there are definitely things that we have talked, the chief and I have talked about doing. I mean, we need a good QA program. That can't be done with me on the desk all the time.
All the time.
I've tried to implement some of it, but it's very difficult.
Right.
We have managed to schedule our trainings and get that done. Again, sometimes it's a miracle getting all that stuff in, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, and again, he and I have had this discussion many, many times and the previous chief as well, to have the supervisor be off the desk and be available for fill-ins or,
Right.
you know, that sort of thing. There definitely are, Yeah.
Your primary function can't be to administer the program and work. the
and work,
program.
it's very difficult. I appreciate your comments on that. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Any other comments from commissioners on? Go ahead.
Thank you. We started a couple of months ago. We have been doing monthly meetings with dispatch, the fire department and the police department. Initially, it was, I think, after the plane crash incident was our first meeting. And we have been talking a lot about radios and communication. And so we will have our next meeting, I think, on the 14th of next month. We have found that to be very fruitful for all of us, dispatch especially. We've been working pretty closely with Lieutenant Kimball from the fire department. He's come into dispatch. He's always available to us when we have issues with our radios and, you know, have questions. And so we appreciate him for that. So thank you, Chief. So we are working with them quite closely in our radio issues. And so leading into, we are still working on getting our radio system upgraded. The chief, I think, can speak more about that when he speaks, but it's still in the process.
Why isn't he getting it done?
Oh, no.
Not only.
I just want to,
Making you go last and he's criticizing you.
Right in the list with the dispatch project, that's it.
I just want to
Yes.
comment that I am really pleased the departments are communicating with each other.
Absolutely.
That is one of the really good things that will be the takeaway tonight, is that hearing that the departments are talking weekly, daily,
Absolutely.
communicating, having meetings. So I thank you all for that.
Well, I appreciate, I would like to say, I appreciate Chief Dodge. He's been our supervisor. He's been supervising dispatch for quite some time on top of all the other things he does. And unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but he will no longer be overseeing us now that he has been promoted. So we have a new supervisor, Lieutenant Haskins is now overseeing us. But he's actually worked very closely with us in the past. But I appreciate the chief, all of the months that we've worked together, and the communication has definitely improved over all three agencies. And so we appreciate that very much. So we'd like to give you just a little bit of the training that dispatchers have been attending for the last few months. We do have continuing ed that the state requires every year. So some of the classes we have been attending are CIT classes, ties in with the mental health aspect of things. It's crisis intervention team training. I'd like to say Deputy Chief Gordon has been fantastic in getting us those training opportunities. He's very on top of the mental health aspect of things for us. So we appreciate that. They've been attending human trafficking classes. Unfortunately, that's become very prevalent in the last few years. Cultural diversity. We've had some active shooter classes. I actually was able to attend in January in Springfield, alert training, I believe it's called. It's actually a scenario-based active shooter training. We did it in a elementary school, which was a little frightening at first. It's not used right now, but it's set up entirely like a school inside, and the officers were not real bullets, of course, but you could hear firing going out throughout the building, and it was quite eye-opening as a dispatcher to see, because we don't usually get to see what's happening on scene, and so to get that sort of real-life scenario training was very eye-opening, and I appreciated it. It gives me a new understanding of what they're doing and what we should be doing on our end. God forbid something like that happened here. So some of the classes, those are some of the classes we've been attending. We're still waiting for our dispatch project to go out to bid, unfortunately. The chief tells me that it's at the engineers right now and it's being held up there. I'm sure that he could give a little more detail, perhaps. But he's been on them every single day, he tells me, and it's a little frustrating because we moved out of our old offices last July. And so we're still waiting for the bids to go out, unfortunately, so. Let's see. I would just like to comment, just in regards to the incident that Chief Strahan mentioned from yesterday. There was a pretty terrible incident that happened yesterday. And I appreciate his comments on the mental health aspect of things. I think one of the things that people don't understand, or people sometimes think that we're not affected by that because we can't physically see it. But sometimes I feel like it can actually be a little more terrifying and terrible when you're hearing it on the phone, or you're on the radio end of things. And so for the years that I have been with Greenfield, Deputy Chief Gordon, Chief Strahan have always emphasized CISM classes, CISM after the incidents. And Deputy Chief Gordon has gone out of his way to include us in that. And when I first started dispatching 22 years ago, we weren't included in that because they didn't think we were affected. And so very appreciated. And Lieutenant Green as well, he actually set up the meet for tomorrow. And so we appreciate that. And our dispatchers will be attending that, thankfully. So.
Jeff, for a second, I'll interrupt you. When I say police and fire, I don't specifically single out dispatch, even though they're their own agency. They're like part of our agency, if that makes sense. So I apologize if I
No,
didn't.
I knew what you meant.
They're part of our. I just feel like they're part of us, so that's why.
I appreciate that. And I knew what you meant. So, one of the other things, I should have mentioned this before when I was talking about one of the other points, but so I have been going through, I'm not sure if I think that I copied the chief on the email, but going through our SOPs with the fire department and dispatch. And there was a few things in there that needed to be updated, things that I thought were things that had changed over time. So I am working with Lieutenant Cooley and MacGyver and the chief and my supervisor now, Lieutenant Askins, to get that updated. We want to be as streamlined as possible with the fire department. And so we want to be able to provide them with the best services we can. And so that will be part of that, is getting that updated. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Any questions from the commissioners, comments? I want to thank you, and I also, thank you, Lieutenant Green, for setting up what you set up for tomorrow for all our departments for the incident. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You were talking about the radios and how that's about to be fixed.
The chief started the process several months ago. We thought we were on track to get that done fairly quickly. Unfortunately, a little wrench was put in or thrown into the mix. So it had to go out to bid for the project. And I don't know where we are with that. He's going to talk more about that. So we hope soon.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would invite the chief and the lieutenant wants to, if you want to pull up a chair.
Todd Dodge, newly minted provisional chief of police. I first want to indicate how unfair this has been because everybody has stole my thunder on these things tonight.
You can just
I'm going to reiterate.
reiterate
I'm
it.
going to reiterate.
Lieutenant Green, can you just let the Zoom folks know who you are?
Chris Green, Lieutenant with Greenfield Police Department.
So to talk a little bit about the extremely traumatic incident that took place last night that the fire chief mentioned and the dispatch manager mentioned, because now it's out there. I was overwhelmingly impressed, and this is Lieutenant Green, myself, Deputy Chief Gordon, for the better part of the last few years. I've been working really close together on a lot of philosophy, communication, protocols, and most recently now Lieutenant Haskins, since he's been made lieutenant. I came in this morning, I went over the log, and while reading the log, I learned of this incident. My first email was to the command staff. And I said, please set up CISM for this because this is where we need to go. It was done. So for me, that was, how proud can you be? What that explains to me is we've listened to each other for the last few years and we're doing it. We're actually carrying it out. So And then as a follow-up to that, because the wheels keep spinning, I sent Lieutenant Green another text saying, can you make sure fire's included on that? Done, already done. So excellent. It was a very traumatic incident. I'm not going to get into detail on it, obviously. But it was an incident where an individual far too young lost his life. And our responders had to go to that. So my hat's off to the responders, and that includes fire, police. I'm assuming that ended up in some sort of technical rescue type scenario, as well as ambulance crew. These are the calls you don't want to go. And they need some attention. They'll tell you they don't. I personally reached out to at least our officers that responded to this call and supervisors, and they're all tough. But I mean, we've lived this for years. I've been to calls very similar, and you see them for a long time. And they need to talk it out. So again, I thank Lieutenant Green because he was on it. Didn't have to be asked. That system was already set up, and like you heard already, it's going to be tomorrow. I wanted to talk a little bit about the dispatch before we segue too much in. So the dispatch manager is on point with what she's talking about. I have my own theories, and she and I have been discussing these for quite some time. It's kind of maybe a little difficult for her because she's actually one of the union members. So and again, she's been very cooperative. I don't think we've ever had any conversations that were unreasonable requests. Anything I have asked of her to ask of them has been carried out. So we have a really good back and forth relationship. She thinks I'm not going to still supervise her. She's wrong. That's still going to happen. But it's been great. I know
Many chiefs.
she puts her heart and soul into that dispatch center, unlike I've seen it before. So there is a lot that I've asked of her as a lieutenant and as her supervisor. I was basically conducting QA stuff for the police department as well as other stuff. So I really, really needed her to chime in and do that, the scheduling and the QA. And she's trying as hard as she can to make this happen, but there's just not enough time in the day. Because of collective bargaining agreements with dispatch, the 10 is, like you said, skinny. And every single time a dispatcher takes a day off, it must be filled with overtime. And I say must because that's what the contract says. So I don't know where we're moving forward with that. That'll be negotiations. I can't talk to any of that, but right now, by contract, a per diem can only cover 2 shifts a month. That's really hampering on our ability to save overtime money, especially when we have 5 and hopefully 6. But again, we've worked hard. Cindy and I have worked together to really increase our cadre of per diems because there's no fringe. It's an hourly rate, and they've definitely taken their turns covering shifts for us. So we'll discuss more on that. But the way I saw it, and I had put some calculations together, by adding actually more full-time dispatchers, we will actually save money. There's so much overtime because they have to have it. And again, the other result is they get burned out. And they'll walk themselves into burnout because they want the money for the comp time. So it's our job, I believe, to help them. And we got to take control of the overtime in that dispatch center.
Can I just make a comment? I just want to go back to the commissioner's comments and Commissioner Illinois' comments. We would like to see this move forward, and we'd like to see data. The manager needs to be the manager. Can't be on the floor. It's just going to be a struggle forever if we don't get the manager to manage. So we would love to work with you and see the data, and maybe it doesn't happen this year, but let's look at it as a team and let's see what can be done, because you got to, not only do you want to prevent overtime, you want to prevent burnout, and the manager's going to get burnt out being at a desk and trying to do the management job. So really, we're committed to help you out with this. So we want you to know that.
We appreciate it. And I know you are.
Okay. Thank you.
So segueing a little bit is having just taken over as the chief, I was just put on Munis, which is our numbers software, today. So I was not the person who has originally constructed our FY25 budgets for dispatch or police. I have since met with the mayor, so it's likely, I don't have any of that for you. I don't even know how to print it out. So I'm meeting with our accountant on Friday, and she's going to give me a quick tutorial on how to use Munis, which I'm looking forward to. I have a pretty good feeling, having looked at some of it, that there's going to be some changes to what's in there right now. I don't know what our timelines are. I'm a newbie. So, but I'm going to try to make it quick and try to offer up what I believe is a fair budget for FY25. I don't believe an 11th dispatcher was put in the budget previously created, the one that's pending now. So I got to look at them all. Hopefully on Friday, I'll actually have a little bit of knowledge on how to navigate that system. It's pretty complex. So I'm not afraid of it. We'll learn it. We'll figure it out, and we'll go from there. But I wish I had it to present to you, but it's going to be changed anyway. So I'm pretty confident of that. So
No, we appreciate the
yeah.
information.
Talk about the transition to police chief. I've said it publicly. I couldn't even put into words how honored I am to be able to do this. I really appreciate the mayor having faith in me to take over the position. I personally feel I'm unlike any chief you've seen. I'm just me. So I think you're going to see a lot of changes to what you're used to. I like it. I'm going to do everything in my power to enjoy this position, as stressful and anxiety inducing as it can be. I'm just going to do my best at it. So I'm not going to pull any punches. You're going to hear the story, and I have no ulterior motive. So I just want you to know that. I put together numbers for you. Do you have any questions on any of that stuff so far? You good? Okay. I did put together numbers. I did note that the fire chief's is far better looking than mine, and I will fix that for the future. I printed up data. It was kind of at the last minute again. It's been a busy couple weeks. What I want to do, and I'm hoping to continue, is I want to paint a picture for the community of what the police department does. I think a lot of stuff disappears, as the days go by. We had again, not to beat it up, but we had a really horrible incident last night, but these happen a lot more than we would like to talk about. So I have statistics here that I'm going to hand out. If you don't mind. The first one here is the number of offenses that took place in January. This is just January. It's 2 pages, so I'll give it. These are offenses that our officers investigated just in January. We don't need to hit them all, but you can see the entire array of offenses that we have in our database. We experienced them at least once in 30 days. Every single one on here we experienced once. Assault with a dangerous weapon in January, there was 3. Domestic, which you'll see as A and B on a family or household member, there was 5 of them in January. Vandalizing of property, 12. There was 30 warrant arrests in January. It's an arrest a day for warrants. This is what our officers are doing in that capacity. You'll notice in here, if you look through these, take your time, read them at your leisure. There's a bunch of motor vehicle related stuff, and which I'll talk about more in future. But in total in January, just these offenses, 171 in 1 month period that they investigated, dealt with, and took action on. The next one is what we call the stat sheet for our officers. This is everybody in the agency and the stuff they did.
He's right. It's not as pretty as yours.
It's not pretty at all. I was upset when I saw its colors. You'll see again, this doesn't really tell the tale. Different assignments bring different types of productivity. So I'm not asking anybody to judge anybody based on the numbers you see. But, some of these we're pretty proud of. If you look at the totals in the end, the last page, that's really what I'm asking you to look at. Incidents is investigations, so to speak. That's our complaints, our incident reports. Things that were reported to us that actually require the generation of a report. That's our incident reports. Arrests. So I noted earlier, there's 30 arrests for warrants in January. There's 35 arrests in January. So it's actually more than one a day in January. So citations, I'd like to think the community is aware of the importance of traffic enforcement. And as you can see, they wrote 277 citations collectively in January. Now I have a story to tell on that. We conducted additional analysis on that. And contrary to what most people might think, police officers hate citing people. They really do. They are human. They have bills. They have troubles. They understand the impact of a citation. Of those 277 citations, the vast majority of those was a learning moment for the operator. It was a learning moment. It was a teaching moment. I say that because they were written warnings. Right? So they're documenting the stop by virtue of issuing a citation, but the overwhelming majority of them are written warnings. It was an opportunity for the officer to talk with the operator, advise them of what infraction had been committed, and to please fix it. Our goal, if you look to the right of that, is the accidents. So by having a robust traffic enforcement system, we're hoping to reduce the accidents. We want everybody to be able to drive around the streets of Greenfield and feel safe. And I think we can. We have good traffic enforcement. I know it's frowned upon by some, but again, we're not citing everybody. We're giving them warnings, and hopefully we reduce the number of accidents there. So if you have any questions on these, shoot them right out.
Citations aren't, they're written warnings. They're not a ticket.
The data you're seeing is literally the culmination of all citation numbers generated.
Okay.
It does not indicate what type
Okay.
in this report.
Yeah, I got you.
But I have done that research, and it's been an interesting research since I started this job. I've had supervisors over the year that demand money cites because apparently that solves the problem better than a warning. Depends on what school of thought you come from. I like to think that any opportunity to teach and provide some information to these operators is the answer. And, with the juvenile operators laws today, you issue a citation to them, they might not be driving for a while. Parents may be out thousands of dollars before they get back on the road. What I can say to you is, and having direct conversation with our officers, they have a heart. They don't want to do that. They take that into consideration when they're cutting a citation. But again, we're hoping that conversation leads to hopefully not another traumatic accident around the corner Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. So there are goals in place, but they do have hearts. So not a lot of civil citations, I say civil fine citations being issued.
It's an interesting subject because it's like you're on one side of the fence or the other. Like a lot of people believe, give out heavy fines. That's going to cut down speeding. And then there's a whole lot of other people that say, and there's data on it that say that's, that it doesn't bring the numbers down. But you can't help, in my mind, I can't help figure what's actually going to work, right? Because, my mom lives on Pierce Street, and I don't know about any other street in Greenfield, but I really think Pierce Street's one of the busiest streets in the city, and it's
a cut through.
It's a cut through.
Yeah.
And I am not joking about this. Last Sunday, I was working. Actually, it wasn't a Sunday. I can't remember what day of the week it was, but I was working. I've been there a lot. My mom's needs a lot of help, and I was working, and I heard this car revving from the end of the street. And by the time I got to the four-way stop sign, it had to be going 60 miles an hour. It didn't stop. It blew right through it towards Walgreens. And that street is so busy. And I'm thinking, what is going to help enforce the speeding on this street? And there's no simple answer to the question. But people are speeding, and it's scary because they're either going to cause an accident or they're going to hurt somebody. And I mean, I don't have the solution. It's just a statement that I made. There's no easy answer. Like I said, a lot of people think give out a lot more tickets, fine people, but I'm not too sure in my mind anyway, that would fix the problem.
Well, I've lived under both types of supervisors, some that crack the whip and go, we would be criticized day in and day out because every citation we're writing was a warning. But personally, I'd go home and sleep well because I only issued warnings, And then there was the other supervisors that were, making sure you did that. And I remember as part of my training, I was a training officer. And I would challenge my trainee to do a motor vehicle stop and actually hit him with a fine, but get him to thank you before leaving. That's a real trick. And you can do it. You can actually do it. Depends on your communication to them. I don't know. I don't know the end result. Is citations actual money? I mean, it hurts. We all know it hurts. But I'm just telling you from a personal perspective, officers don't like to do it. They're not mean. They're not cruel like that. They don't want to do it. So what I had years ago, many years ago, I had come across some research that indicated to me that the mere presence of our lights on, police lights, the more lights, the least amount of crime. There was a direct correlation to a reduction in crime and the amount of police lights on. And I've used the analogy, I'm sure everybody at work sick of me saying it, but if you get on I-91 South and you're not even to Deerfield yet, and you see a trooper with a car over,
Everybody slow down.
you move over and you do your thing. Well, then you're not even to Whately yet, and you see another trooper with a car over. What are you immediately saying to yourself?
They're out.
They're everywhere. That's two cops. It's two cops. So my theory has always been in Greenfield, get some traffic stops out there, because the end result is hopefully that makes people think we're everywhere. That was only two. And there ain't a heck of a lot more. So we're trying to be proactive. They responded well to that. There's a purpose and a method to our madness with respect to traffic enforcement. I've been to other countries that don't do it, and it's scary to drive around those places. So our goal is to keep it going. We want to have a vibrant traffic enforcement thing. We bought a couple signs. I got a grant. If you remember, if you go down Wildwood Ave right now, I have one of those radar signs. It may or may not be working. That's been an issue for us. And then on Maple Street, when you come down the hill from Poetsy and you take the bend onto Maple Street, you'll see one of the signs there as well. So anything we can do to keep adding to that, and then we're paid for by grant again. So as we keep moving in that direction, Lieutenant Green has taken over the managing of the grants I had been doing, and he's going to keep an eye out on continuing those things. The more we can get, the better we are. So
Thanks for answering the question.
yeah.
I just want to add, one thing I love about Greenfield is they call it the Kofor curve. Presence of one of your patrols, if they're not answering calls. I mean, everything goes into it, right? Call volume, how many patrols do you have? Evidence shows police officer is sitting perpendicular to the roadway, rotating around as much as they can if they're not answering calls. The first 45 minutes after that officer leaves that area, data shows that
Resume normal.
but the potential crime rate goes down.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And so because how much stuff do people do that they do out of opportunity? But I want to congratulate you, because once in a while I'm rushing down Barton Road to get to school to teach. And there was a nice sign out there for quite a while, and it reminded me that Santa was watching. And whatever it takes.
Also purchased on that grant.
There you go.
Those two signs.
You know what? I slowed down.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so presence, blue lights, the signs,
Yep.
little creative language, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it brings the whole temperature down for the community.
Mhm.
And those are services that citizens are getting, but they don't we have to make those connections.
Yep.
Right? And I just saw a study last week. Doesn't matter what political party's in charge. American citizens get a lot of things from their government. But they don't really know they're getting them until we hear that the government might have to shut down Friday, right? And those, and that's very true of Greenfield. And if you drive around, you know, different towns do it differently. But that 10 or 15 minutes where an officer can be in a spot, Federal Street, High Street, Elm Street, slows everybody down.
Mhm.
And then crimes of opportunity don't happen during that period of time and, you know, for 45 minutes after. Well, if you count that, that's a lot of hours in a day
When you're not even there.
when you're not even there.
So we've studied all that, and that's, you know, that's our plan to keep that up. But again, you know, I'm proud of the men and women of the Greenfield Police. I personally don't take the perspective, at least at this point, that everybody needs to be hit with a big fine. I'd rather the educational component of a stop. I watch the body cameras regularly. And again, I'm only more proud of the men and women of the police department on their level of professionalism during these stops. Sometimes things go haywire, and that's just life. That's just how it is. So their composure it's amazing. Some of the composure they have. So the next thing I have is an actual breakdown of, now the feds use what they call IBRs. So the titles of these may not accurately reflect Mass General Laws charges, and you'll see when I give it to you what I mean. Again, I'm just trying to outline, I'm trying to show a clear perspective. Yep. Again, I won't belabor too much of it, but the forcible fondling, MGL would call that rape. This is January. Again, I just want to point that out. This is 1 month. So you can go down through and see that, you know, we have aggravated assaults. There was an arson. Breaking and enterings, there's 5 of those. Shoplifting's 5. Motor vehicle thefts, we had 4. I'd say that's a spike. But again, just, you know, take your time, read through this. Malicious destruction of property, there's 10 of them. Bylaw violations, 11. Bylaw violations you're going to see are most likely motor vehicle. Do a lot of city ordinance enforcement. So again, just look it over. Greenfield, the Greenfield Police Department is a very busy place. And which brings me to the next point is I know, and taking over as the chief of police, I know that this city has a lot of requests. There's certain expectations of our police department that they want to see come true, and one of which is us present in the downtown business district. So we're already starting. One of the first initiatives I'm kicking off is getting it down all the way down to patrols. We have to start showing up down there. The problem with that is, and I've seen it, we've lived it, is we will inevitably tell an officer, I want you to park your car and get out and walk. You're seeing the calls that were 1 month. This is no exaggeration. They get out of the car and they get about 50 feet away in an emergency call. Again, the officer's pulled off Main Street. So, well, when you're done, go back. And they do. And they get about 60 feet away from the cruiser and an emergency call comes in. And this is our life. And we're trying. We are genuinely trying to be there. I'm telling you that I agree that we need to be there. And I'm working on a potential plan that I'd like to discuss further with you at this point, as a way to try to accomplish that objective. It's not necessarily with Greenfield police officers. So I like it. It's an interesting concept. I'm interested. It's at such a beginning stages. Don't want to get too deep into it, but we know that the businesses downtown and the people downtown deserve to see us downtown. And we know that we haven't been there enough. That along with some other things that we need to patch up and clean up. I know that we have the staff to do it. We're open-minded enough to do it. And we're ready. We got the energy to do it, so. Yeah, you got any questions? Yeah, and the last thing I ask is, at the next meeting, can I go first? Because that was totally unfair.
I'll rotate.
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate that.
I
I'm
appreciate,
just kidding.
I appreciate and look forward to the downtown plan. I think it's important. And I won't speak for all the commissioners, but I know there's a will for us to work with you on that and get it off the ground and, whatever it takes. And I appreciate you and your team and stepping up to the plate, and we're really looking forward to working together.
I know everybody's gonna hate me because I'm adding more, but I just want to add, obviously we had a transition. So we dropped right now, at least for now, we're down to 2 lieutenants. Previously, I was the logistics lieutenant. Lieutenant Green was the operations lieutenant, and Lieutenant Haskins was the planning lieutenant. We're trying to utilize the ICS model, and we are meeting with fire regularly, getting better at that. That had to change. We kind of went back to the more traditional approach as where Lieutenant Green is our special unit sergeant, which encompasses the detective bureau, the community response officers, and believe me, a host of other obligations that I drop on his desk every day.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, and this is for you, if you need to contact anybody, you want to make it direct. So Lieutenant Haskins is now what we classically refer to as our patrol commander. He's got other things too. We're proud to announce, I don't know if you've seen it on our Facebook page, but Lieutenant Haskins was definitely bulldog behind creating our new cadet program that we're going to have. I went to the Franklin County Chiefs meeting today, and everybody's on board with this program. It's receiving a lot of attention, and the Franklin County Chiefs donated $1,000 to it. Our own police association did the same. So we're all behind it. It's going to incorporate many agencies up to and including the sheriff's department, local PDs, GCC, and it's gonna cause us to have some really good direct interaction with youth. And it's 14 to 21, so it's not just youth, but and the concept is, I don't want to blow, Lieutenant Haskins' thunder, but you start at 14 and you work your way to 21. And you sort of graduate, at which point you can actually take you're civil service, you can take a civil service exam or you can now qualify to apply as a police officer. Very interesting
Can
thing.
I just make one quick point? Police Executive Research Forum, very well respected. Has a current journal article talking about the value of immersing the young people in the agencies for both education and how to be a citizen.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
my hat off to you. And I can attest Lieutenant Haskins was at the college because I saw him.
Yep,
And they're really, that's a great thing,
yep, that's very
particularly
good.
in this time when you can't find people.
They were just, those 2 lieutenants in particular were just thrust into a lot of new assignments that we need to cover. Whether or not another lieutenant, the 3rd lieutenant is refilled is a much longer discussion. So again, that kind of dovetails with, I just got into Munis today. So I don't even know what the numbers look like yet. So we'll see what the future brings. I'm very optimistic about it though. I think we had an extraordinary staff for sure. So, and the reception of me coming into this position by them was absolutely amazing. I couldn't speak higher of it. So you got anything you want to add, Chris?
I feel like Penn and Teller here though, just sitting here.
Well, say something. Say something.
He's the one that gets all the work done.
Is it Penn or Tuck?
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have a comment that, I'm glad to just talk about the downtown. I know they want to see the downtown officer back there, I've always said for years that the people need to realize that we need to increase our forces, both police and fire, just because I guarantee you, if you look back, I remember the downtown patrol officer always being there 24/7, 7 days a week. There was always a patrolman officer down there. But the reality is, that people don't realize is that the call and the need for both police and fire, probably the same amount of numbers, but the
Yeah, right
call
on.
volume has
Yeah, right on Main Street.
quadrupled. Yeah. So people have to realize that the demand for them has increased, but the numbers,
Like the chief said, and Chief Strand said it,
the numbers
the
have.
job isn't getting less.
The numbers of officers haven't increased, but the demand for their services has increased.
Yep.
So it's kind of tough to provide the services, so.
The
It's
blanket
kind of
statement is
give
that
and
the city has a police department, and because you do, and I'm sure the same goes for fire, and we've heard it. Because we do, there are things we have to do, and we have to do lest we be sued for not doing them or worse. So, we are we're juggling all these mandates with a very limited amount of individuals actually on the street to do them. So there are options. I'm happy with the level of staffing we have. We just finished up, I believe. I think we got one trainee left, and he's a per diem officer. He's actually a full-time jail guard. He's with us. He'll be a part-time officer, which are extremely important. But aside from that, we're full complement. And we can do what we've been doing with that number of people. But there's no extra to that. That's not being able to dedicate someone to the downtown. So again, I don't want to keep talking. We'll talk about it more. We'll introduce that.
Any other comments?
I have a question about the possible future of adding a police officer back into the school.
That's entirely on the school. And for the last several years, they have been a hard no. Period. We have officers trained to do it.
Right.
We had two go through the entire SRO training. They're more than happy. They would love it. It would break up probably the monotony of their routines, but the schools will not do it. And it's they hold the cards on it.
We keep them current certified in that position and to assume that role if it ever comes up. Like the trainings, the annual trainings, we make sure they attend that. So they're all, should those roles appear, we're ready to roll with the two.
And they're going through all that same training too.
Mhm.
Like their entire department went through that training for that emergency response stuff.
So the other question that I have is about your social worker, the program that you have
Co-response?
for the co-response. There you go. Would you like to spend a couple of minutes just explaining to the public exactly what they can and cannot do?
So historically, we handled basically any and all mental health calls in Greenfield. We were the first call. Someone was in crisis, an officer went. We don't have master's degree in that field. We have degrees, but not in mental health. We do a lot of training in that area. It's now, a lot of it's mandatory, which is good. But we are not the best people to respond to those types of calls. So we're not the first. We're probably the first in the area to set up this type of program. But it's definitely not new. It's something that's been being used throughout the country and other areas for quite a while. It's putting round pegs in round holes, arguably. So the goal of the co-response system and the co-response teams are to reduce the amount of times individuals in crisis go to the hospital or go to a police department in a cell. And it has been extremely successful in that mission. So again, traditionally we'd show up to a scene. We know how to arrest people. So if they're acting recklessly, dangerously, putting others in danger, we handcuff them and we bring them to the station and charge them with disorderly conduct. The days of that are gone because we have now jumped on board with this co-response program. I didn't give it a lot of optimism that it would take, knowing police to be police. Generally speaking, we don't like change. We're not going to subscribe to that. But in an extremely short period of time, it went from talking about co-response to hearing them called for all day, every day. Because behavioral health issues are on the rise. It's just the plain and simple. And I'm sure that that's reflected in the fire chief's calls. These are going up and they're going up rapidly. And until now, another task Lieutenant Green has inherited is I do our annual use of force, which is now called response to resistance and aggression, and our pursuit report, our annual report. And since the inception of the co-response to the second year, the amount of use of force incidents during service of a Section 12, the involuntary committals, broke in half. We reduced that by half. The amount of times officers were having to go hand on with a person because the right person was there to mediate, to de-escalate their master's degree or higher in terms of their education. They cannot go out in the street and work as a co-responder until they have achieved a master's degree and a certificate. They got to be licensed. So we have a third about to graduate with his master's degree and go for the licensing. He came in, he introduced himself the other day. They're great people, but I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised at how well integrated the co-responders have come into our agency.
So if you get a call, how do they get involved? Do they ride around with?
Yep. They're right in our cars. They have an office. Come on, I'd love you to come on. They have an office in our station. We set an office up for them. It's good that they're there because there's a overwhelming amount of data that must go into the quarterly reports for the CIT grant, and they maintain it all for us. It saves us a ton of time. Every call they go on, they log it. And then when the quarterly reports come up, they have it ready, and they've sort of customized a document for me that makes it quick for me to do my reporting. But they have their own office. They're assigned to, in as many cases as possible, there's a CIT grant. And we put officers on overtime in this CIT role, and they are dedicated to the co-response mission. So they're in a police car together and off they go. They hear of another officer at a call who's calling for a co-responder. That co-response team responds and essentially takes over for them.
So, well, I want to thank you for that explanation, because even though we might read about it and hear, from other police officers, the public doesn't know.
Yeah.
They don't know why there's civilian in the police car, So thank you for the info.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, come on up and we'll walk through it. I'll introduce you to them.
You're going to get sick of me.
A couple of quick comments. This isn't the last conversation about co-response because it's on my agenda. No, it's on David's agenda. So we're going to be talking a lot about this and working with the police department. And also I encourage public safety commissioners to ride with officers. Pick a shift. You want to go out with a co-response, pick a shift, get out there, see what they do. It's very different. I've ridden the midnight shift. I rode the afternoon shift a few times. You get out there and you see how they operate. You see how they talk with people and handle people,
The chair he's definitely taken it upon himself to be there. And what I've seen, and like I said, it was hard for the police department to accept these civilians coming into their life. I spoke with the mayor the other day in our first meeting, and I know that she is very behind Public Safety Commission. And with that being said, I would like nothing more than to have our officers have more exposure to each of you as individuals. And you're invited to come up, and the more you spend time with them, and the more they spend time with you, the better this is going to work. If you come up, they're going to start seeing you as a valid entity, not just this fictional thing that we keep talking about, Public Safety Commission. Come up and ride with them. We will set it up. I'm more than happy to. He went to our shoot trailer with us. They're comfortable with him walking around now.
Yes, I did.
Just let him right in the door. He's walking the
We'll talk
hall.
about the policies later.
But it's a good thing. It is a good thing. Break in, come in, hang out. I don't care if you want to just come in and have a coffee and sit in my office. We'll walk around the PD. We're pretty easygoing people.
I think
We might even laugh a little bit here and there.
to me, you initially going up there, it's to build a relationship, right? And it's to build trust. So if we have to go to the police department or put our foot down, or there's something serious that we need to discuss, they have trust in us and they'll listen to us. It's not a fight back and forth. It's all about building trust and teamwork with the departments, with other departments, and that's the goal. So I just encourage, get up there and, get to know folks.
I'd like you to get to that point where you don't feel weird walking in. No, we walk there, it's our home. We walk in, it's normal. I'd love for you guys to just come up and be, I'm comfortable here at the police department. And everybody knows you. And if we can get to that, that'd be my goal.
I
Come
set
around.
up, sorry. I set up the scheduling for the co-response program. So reach out to me and I can ensure, what times and who and what kind of vehicle, because no one wants to ride in the back of a marked unit.
She might.
I,
She might.
Oh, all right.
no, I'm claustrophobic.
With a canine?
With the K9.
No, that, I definitely wanted to start with someone with a close response. Because I've always, I know it's been a long time since I was in the police department. But I've always advocated for that, and I've always focused on and tried to push for the mental health debriefing, and then having somebody, having some support afterwards,
With that being said, they help us too.
Huh?
They help us too. That's a part of that program. So they are a direct link for our officers as a resource as well. So we have the SISM that he's setting up, but we've utilized the co-responders to actually talk with us. So it's a good resource. And we encourage, again, fire, all the first responders, talk to them. They're willing to talk to anybody.
So, okay. No, that.
You good? All right. Any other comments and concerns from commissioners?
I just want to applaud you because I know how hard you work on that. And when I passed out that academic article, which Ed read. So he gets
Twice, they beat it up. Look at it.
Upside down.
I just
I
want
did, I read it upside.
that was your nickname,
I even
Brett.
wrote comments in it. Look at it, it's all ripped. I read it. I actually did.
the issue of co-response, right? When we get into the details, I believe we're doing it correctly inside the police department. Not to criticize other communities, vote to do different things. I believe civilian co-response should be funded. I believe it should be within the police department. I don't think a separate co-response of civilians is safe. I really just disagree with that in principle. And the other thing I want to say, I've been harping on this for my whole life, or at least a part of my life where I was, in this business, which is half of it. We talk about citizens and what we maybe don't tell them or don't do a good job telling them. Police officers lack the infrastructure. Now, you see, so those sections are down 50%, right? Just because of.
I mean, the use of force while serving them are down. 50%.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's huge.
Right, now, the model is in Texas. I don't know why it's in Texas. It's Bahar County, where the county has created an infrastructure so that once you titrate down and de-escalate at the scene, as you've said, every officer doesn't go to work every day saying, how many people can I lock up tonight? How many can I arrest? Right? But diversionary opportunities are limited because the infrastructure isn't there.
Right.
So what Bahar County created was a diversion court. Okay, I don't want to lock you up. I know what that does to your family because I have a family. Here's my other options. The options have been so limited in Massachusetts historically that it's really sinful when you think about the lack of options that the police have on scene. And so co-responder is a step in that direction. Infrastructure is another step in that direction, but that takes money and that takes legislation. The pie is only so big and we all know that, but we have to talk about that. Because the more that we talk about that from our positions, the more we can get people interested in hearing about that. And then legislation passes. And I think, I love the idea of pilot programs. Do you guys remember a long time ago, the Franklin Futures Lab Task Force out of the courts? I had just come up here in 94 and it was using Franklin County as a laboratory to test different things to do in the judiciary with inmates and circle sentencing. And some of the stuff was good and some of it wasn't going to work. But what the state liked about it was in a small jurisdiction, you can do a lot of benchmarking. You can use it as a laboratory for something bigger.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we are well positioned in Franklin County to make those kinds of requests, to make the case to the state. Hey, this is a good place to try this.
Mhm.
And if it works, then you can replicate it elsewhere. And so, that's where I'm coming from on a lot of this stuff. I'm excited. And I'm gonna say this because I've said it 3 times at meetings, I think 3 times in public. And I know it's not particularly popular. But in my tenure of public service in this community, you guys were just moving into the Kaiser Permanente building when I became a selectman, and that was in the year 2000.
Mhm.
Okay? It wasn't a good building then. Okay? I voted for an override to pay for a school, and I didn't have any kids going to that school. We have a beautiful library, and I love that. We have a beautiful fire station coming online, and I think that's great. I was around for the middle school rehab and the other things that we did, okay? Those are symbols of a community that invests in its infrastructure, that serves its public. I think the same should be true of our police department. And, and I don't think I'm in a minority here. I really don't. And I'm not afraid to talk about it because I think there are cogent reasons for us to talk about it. When I went to do interviews, I hadn't been there for a while, and I saw what Cindy's dealing with and that you have to deal with. Okay? It's not acceptable. And I want to stand up for the proposition that is an infrastructure item that we need to address. And we need to support it because it's important. It's not about just new, it's about functionality. It's about building out your infrastructure for the next 2 or 3 generations, like that fire department. This chief is going to be long time retired while other successors are enjoying all the work that you've all done to create this. And so, I know in some areas that's not a popular statement. I support it. I will support it. I will talk about it. I'll work with the council. They have terrible decisions to make all the time. I was on the old town council. There's never enough of anything. But I have 3 favorite words. Let me see if it's 3. Move forward together. We move forward together.
Mhm.
So I don't think I'd get
So-
any disagreement around this table
You
about that.
won't, we're not gonna have a discussion on that tonight.
No.
Agenda. So no more comments on that.
Almost supper time.
No more comments on that. But we thank you for that, those comments, but we won't have a discussion on it. Put it on the agenda. Any other comments for the police department? We thank you for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, hold on. Have a good night.
You're at that point in class when someone asks. a
All right.
question.
We're gonna move on. We have a draft here of our first ever process and procedure for public safety complaints. I want to run through this. I don't expect to spend hours and hours on it tonight, but I do want to run through it. I'm asking for the commissioners to mark it up, get me your comments. I really want to set a goal of completing this process and procedure. We've talked about it for a whole bunch of months now. So, I just want to run through it. And, we don't have to go into major detail, but let's run through it together if we could. I have it down. Obviously, you can see that it's a draft version 1. I have the date. I have some general notes here that the Public Safety Commission will follow and adhere to section 611 of the City of Greenfield Charter. I've listed the charter. I'm not going to go into the charter. We can all read the charter. But what's important with respect to the charter is that, we as public safety commissioners will work with the departments, as Chief Strahan said. Complaints will come in several different ways. They'll come in through the mayor's office. They might come in through the Public Safety Commission. They might go directly to the 2 departments. We expect that the 2 departments will communicate, document and communicate the complaints, and will do their follow-up, and their follow-up and findings will be sent back to us on a monthly basis. So that's what I've asked for as the chair There's language in here also that talks about the Public Safety Commission being able to, as deems necessary to establish procedures to be followed in filing of written complaints and in investigations. And that's what this document is all about. So you could, again, you could reread the charter if you would like, but I did state it here on our process and procedure. I think that's important. So getting into the process, and Secretary, will you take notes and comments? Could you do that? Can you take, can you capture comments when you do the notes? When you do the monthly notes of other commissioners, if they have a comment, they like this sentence, they don't like it, that type of thing? Thank you.
On the recording, I'll do that, yes.
Um,
I usually don't include them if it's a.
You got it.
Comment, but.
But again, this is our working document, so we want to look at this together. We want to get it completed. So I'll go through it. All complaints made against the chief and other of either department will be forwarded to the Public Safety Commission. Investigations of either chief shall not be conducted by any department personnel reporting to the chief unless the complaint is criminal in nature. All complaints shall be investigated by the Public Safety Commission in collaboration with the mayor's office. Now, I don't believe there's anything in our charter that talks about if a complaint comes in to about the chiefs of the departments, but as public safety, we could have the right to be able to make this statement or any statement we want when it comes to a complaint against the chiefs. So I think this is pretty good, but you all might have input on this particular paragraph. You could either express it now or we could do it later, but I want to read these. So, I'm just going to keep moving on until one of you speak up, okay? If that's okay. And that's how we did get a complaint against the former police chief, and we did our investigations and we did it properly. And I don't think Commissioner Burge, you were here when we did that, but I feel as the chair, we did that properly, and we came up with a conclusion. The Public Safety Commission has the right to ask the mayor for support of a third-party investigator to be paid for by the city of Greenfield. So if we do get a complaint in and we believe that it needs extra support, I believe we could work with the administration and talk with the administration about a third-party investigator. We feel the need for that. Complaints received by the department directly and not through the Public Safety Commission shall be recorded and filed at the departments. We know that's in both the fire department and police department's process and procedure. A record of all complaints, including but not limited to written complaints, verbal complaints, and anonymous complaints, shall be sent to the chair of the Public Safety Commission. The chair shall share the information with the other Public Safety Commission on a monthly basis. So we've asked on a monthly basis to receive the number of complaints and the details of the complaints as much as we can, barring any type of personnel issues or, issues with the law. So we expect to have communication with both departments back if the complaint goes right to the police department and we don't initially know about it. If the Public Safety Commission decides to investigate complaints on its own in conjunction with departments, the chair of the Public Safety Commission will assign a commissioner to work with said departments. All results will be shared in writing with the chair for the distribution and discussion. So somehow we need to organize it so the complaints in the departments, one doesn't go to one commissioner and then the other commissioner, and I don't know about it. And, this commissioner might not know about it. So I felt it needed to be run through the chair for organizational reasons. Results of each complaint investigated by either department will be forwarded to the chair of the Public Safety Commission in writing for distribution to other commissioners. The Public Safety Commission has the right to ask each department further questions and disagree with the department's final decision on any complaint. The Public Safety Commission may ask each department for details and possible changes to decisions and actions made. There's a lot in that statement. I also do respect comments back from the chiefs on this document. I don't need it tonight. You might not want to comment, but you have copies of this document, and I think we're a team here and it's important. We want to get this right. Steps of investigating. There could be more steps, but these are steps that we put together. What's very important is to ensure confidentiality. The individual complaint details may be made public, so the type of complaint, but the individuals involved have a right to privacy that must be maintained. That's pretty important. We all know that if we have to, we can go into executive session. Fairness and objectivity. The investigator, and when I mean investigator, I mean public safety commissioners. The investigator shall treat those being investigated with fairness and objectivity. The goal is not to prove guilt, but to gather balanced evidence from both sides. We can add to these steps, but I'm going to run through them. When a complaint is received, the chair of the Public Safety Commission shall assign the task of gathering information to one of the commissioners. The investigator shall gather information related to the complaint by interviewing the complainant, interviewing any officials involved, and interviewing documentation, reports, camera footage, or other responsible sources. The complainant will be assured that while the Public Safety Commission is independent from any other department or city office, the investigation is official and taken seriously. Any information they provide may be investigated to determine the truth. I think that's a really important statement. If we're going to take this serious as commissioners, somebody that has a complaint should be taken seriously from us, but they also have to understand that we're going to take it seriously and we're going to do a really thorough job to get to a conclusion. So it's really not a joke when somebody makes a complaint. We have to take them all seriously, no matter what level they're at. The investigator has the right to interview any individuals involved and or third-party witnesses. During the interview, the investigator shall be partial and consider any and all relevant facts. The investigator shall never offer any opinion. To me, this is very important. We're out there trying to get to the truth and get information and not offer how we feel or think about the current situation. Questions shall be relevant and designed to draw out facts about the complaint. They should be open-ended to elicit as much information as possible. The intent is to gather as much information and evidence as possible from both sides. 7, the investigator shall take clear notes, gather documentation, and be prepared to address the entire Public Safety Commission with their findings. If at any time the individual Public Safety Commissioner needs assistance, they may communicate this need to the chair for assistance, direction, and advice. So really that statement means is if a Public Safety Commissioner is working on a complaint and gets stuck, isn't sure what the next step is, we all have different levels of experience here, right? So we're all here for each other. So we never want one commissioner to feel like they're out there on their own without knowing that there's 4 other folks to support them. The Public Safety Commissioner handling the case can at any time determine the investigation is complete and notify the chair. The chair will review all the evidence and address the entire Public Safety Commission during a public meeting. This portion of the meeting may be subject to executive session. The Public Safety Commission will determine the outcome of the investigation and determine if they have recommendations to the department chiefs and or the mayor. And the Public Safety Commission has the right to recommend progressive discipline, except in those instances where mere severe punishment is warranted. That actually 11 is in our charter. So this is what we have so far for our process and procedure. Any comments from commissioners? I mean, I know you've just got this. I sent it today, so I don't expect, you obviously want to take this home and digest it, but right now, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I actually had a list of stuff, but I left them on my desk. But, and a lot of them you touched in your document that I've written down since I emailed you about taking this on and getting it completed. as part of this meeting. It started as part of this meeting, so I mean, a lot of it was on here, so. But I do agree, we need to take and digest what's here and maybe have more items to discuss.
I would like to digest it also, but I do have a comment about the concerns that I've had from hearing the public saying with broad complaints against, different police officers or I think there was only one from the fire department, and nothing is done. They want it in writing. We're afraid of retaliation or, whatever. And they kept asking me, what is your process? Well, I kept saying, well, I'm new. I'm just learning, and we are establishing a process that is going to be fair to the complainant and, to the person that's complaining and to the person that's being accused of whatever, because we need to be very careful about complaints that are made frivolously. I can't even pronounce that word. So that,
That's how it works.
so that to protect the innocence of the person, we find out there's no basis for that. It's already out there, people.
Sure, I get that.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right. So we need to be very careful and very detailed and, on this. It says written. Well, we need to they don't have to write it. We can write the complaints. That we get verbal.
Written, bro, I think I stated a couple different ways, but yes, the complaints, I'll use the police department as an example. The police department take all types of complaints. They take verbal complaints, they take written complaints, they take anonymous complaints, they take complaints by email, over the phone. So every complaint that they receive, they document, and the fire department will do the same. And so every complaint, a lot of people aren't comfortable giving their name or address. So it's put in the category of anonymous, but every complaint is documented and listed, and the Public Safety Commission should do the same. If we get a phone call or we get an email and this person wants to stay anonymous, then we have an obligation to make sure that happens. So, there's multiple ways that there's multiple levels that, departments, like I said, the mayor can get complaints. I believe those complaints would be forwarded to the Public Safety Commission. The police, the fire department get their own complaints, and we will get complaints. So, there's not a million complaints out there, but whatever complaints come in, they come in all different ways. But, they're not gonna, there's nothing in any charter, there's nothing in any police department procedure or fire department procedure that says they only accept a complaint that's written. It is not there. They accept all, I can truly and honestly say that they receive all complaints. Now, how they're handled is a different subject, but they do not do not turn away any complaints.
Just want to make it, I just want the public to hear that.
Yeah.
Correct.
At least we expect them not to turn any complaints away, but I know that I feel that they don't. And I feel very solid that either department is not going to turn a complaint away if somebody calls up and wants to be anonymous.
This is a really solid thing. I think we should all take some time. Thank you so much for working.
Yeah.
This is very impressive. And I think with that, it's probably good for us to take some time.
Yeah, I didn't expect, this is a good start for us. I think the vice chair would agree. At some point in time, we want to get this finished. I'm pretty proud that this Public Safety Commission is going to have their first ever process and procedure in place. I think that I don't want to judge the past, but I think part of the problem, getting back to Maria, is, we all have different experience. All the commission has different experiences in life. I wouldn't know how to run a business. You're an expert at running a business, so on and so forth. So, not everybody might know how to do an investigation or want to do an investigation, but what has to be consistent, what what will happen with this is that we're consistent. So when the five of us move on and maybe we're not commissioners, the next group of commissioners have some type of document that they can follow. And then there's consistency over time. So the goal behind this is to make sure there's consistency and transparency over time. That's my take on it. You might have a different opinion, but that's what I feel like it is.
Yeah, you can buy a pictorial history of Greenfield and look at the pictures of the people on Main Street 100 years ago. 100 years from now, it'll be different people.
So
And then, people should just, and people should understand, this is a living, breathing document as anything, and this is subject to change no matter what we agree upon for our first document, that it may change.
absolutely.
We may have stumbling blocks that we didn't see that other people bring forward, and it's a living, breathing document that can be changed at any time.
So my hope and expectation is that it would change over time.
Exactly. As people evolve, it needs to change.
It needs to change.
Yeah.
Any other comments? All right, so next month, I'll put this back on. If you have, you can send us, me, the chief vice chair, you can send us comments, right? You can send comments over that you want to add it, or, you don't like this sentence, maybe this sentence should be changed. I can take those comments, I can incorporate them into the draft, and then next month we could review those comments. Or anything else you want to add. Don't feel like you can't add anything to this document. This is just it says draft right on it. So this is just a draft. So send me what you want to add to it. We'll discuss it. And hopefully by next month, we'll be one step closer to having a final.
I believe you can send to two people.
Mhm.
Other than that, after that, it's a quorum, so you have to be
Thank you
careful
for
not
bringing that up.
do not send your comments to
Send
the
it-
whole committee.
I'd say send them to the chair.
Right.
I'll put them on the document.
Yeah.
Next meeting, I'll have the comments highlighted in a different color. We could talk about your comments.
Yeah, we just don't want an open meeting violation.
All right, all we need to do is get a motion to, oh, yes, chief, yes.
So when you start talking about defining the investigations that have to go on there's a method. So
Can you say that again? I didn't hear
you're talking about the open, having an investigation.
Us, the Public Safety Commission. Yes.
A complaint that's received. It's not really defined what that will look like. Is it for the chief alone, or is it members of the department? And if you start talking about investigations and executive sessions and stuff, and involves an employee of mine or an employee of his, they have certain rights.
Absolutely.
And there are certain problems that an extra investigation that would be occurring at the same time as an internal investigation. And I just want to make sure that we're really clear by that.
Yeah.
And my suggestion is to reach out to the HR department and get some feedback from HR and the attorneys as we move forward.
I totally agree with that.
I'm not opposed to, I'm not trying to hide anything or anything like that. It's just when we conduct an investigation of one of our employees, there's rules, there's regulations, there's standards, there's laws. You have to provide notice to the person that's under, investigation. There's a bunch of stuff that goes with it. And it's gonna be that level at the commission. It's gonna have to be incorporated in the stuff.
I'd also offer up, just from the police side with post, is this is now creating a third layer of redundancy in that process. So now post mandates, and he's picking this up now. My job was to do all our post stuff. We get a complaint, within 2 days, we have to get that initial document, the actual complaint to post.
Mhm.
So just understand that as well, as now we have the internal investigation going on. We have to notify post, and then we could have layer 3, which is the Public Safety Commission going to work on us too. It's a lot of layers coming at an officer in the event there's a complaint. So just give that some thought, that's all I'm saying.
If it's
It
criminal.
seems more to me like you guys should be given a briefing on it, and at the end of it, we give you the disposition of it.
I totally agree with subordinates aren't gonna investigate me. And that's where this commission, I think, comes into play, but anything below that, it's gotta be handled very, very, very carefully. And
So,
I will tell you this, I've been coming to public safety since public safety started 20 years ago. This is the same conversation that started day one, that has happened now, and it's finding that balance between the two. But I just caution, when you're talking about investigating one of our employees, there are certain rights that they have, and it's got to be taken into that account as well.
I think I said this from the get-go that we were gonna, tell me if I'm wrong, but.
You gotta tread lightly, because anything, even in those executive sessions, any of you guys get involved in that and it turns into a civil case, well, now you guys are gonna be deposed and you're gonna be part of all those cases. You may put yourself in very precarious position.
I want to hear what Commissioner Jarvis has to say.
I said from the get-go, from when we talked about doing this 4 months ago, that we were gonna have to include HR, the police chiefs, the union reps, everybody has to be included in it. And everybody has to understand what the consequences and the gives and takes and the legal ramifications and the HR ramifications and employees' rights are all have to be taken into the document. So this isn't something that's just gonna happen overnight and gonna be drawn up and say, because believe me, I went around with the Public Safety Commission when I was the union president about the scoring of the promotional exams. And I basically said, we had a few choice words, but anywho, moving forward, everybody needs to be on the same page for this to work and in agreement for it to work. The public, the employees, the Public Safety Commission, everybody. So everybody needs to be involved. And that, I just want to throw out to the departments, I'm not going to shove it down somebody's throat without their input or their intake or HR's intake. If we get something that was part of my notes saying that we need to, especially the police department, they need to notify posts within a certain amount of days that a complaint's been made against an officer. So we can't sit on it for a month, because now they're in trouble for not reporting to post.
Well, we would still report. So
I know, but if you didn't know about it, for 3 days and we didn't get back to you for 3 or 4 days, then you're in trouble.
Report, it's 2 days.
So that's what I'm saying, is that all these discussions kind of need to happen, so we know where we need to take stuff and understand where we need
The
to. take stuff.
post-investigation training is that thick.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me make a comment as the chair. I hear what both chiefs are saying. This document isn't just going to be created and then we're going to say it's final, we're walking out the door. This is going to have to go through the mayor's office. It's going to have to go through HR. It's going to have to be vetted. I have enough experience to know that. This is to make sure that the Public Safety Commission understand what's in the charter and what their responsibilities are. It says right in the charter that if we receive a complaint, it shall be forwarded to the chief of the department. I would hope that if we get a complaint, in most cases, it's going to be sent to the two of you, and we're going to ask the two of you to come back to us and tell us what you determined. I know that we have a right as commissioners to agree or disagree with what you determine. Doesn't mean that your determination is going to change, but this document is mostly so the Public Safety Commissioners can understand what their responsibility is. It doesn't mean we might not actually go out and do an investigation against one of your employees. We would first hand it to you and ask you to do it and come back to us and tell us what your determination is. This is also based around what you just said, Chief, about if a complaint comes in against one of you. And also, if there is some type of horrific complaint, that all of a sudden we all wake up and there's some type of thing going on that's on YouTube that one of your employees have done. So this isn't to say, we're overriding you. That's not the point behind this document. And we know there's other levels that have to be dealt with on this.
From my standpoint, I actually applaud you for to have a defined role of what public safety is going to be when it comes to complaints for the department, because it hasn't been clear in the past. And I applaud
Thank you.
this board for actually trying to hold our arms around it. It's just, it's a difficult conversation.
It's a difficult conversation.
It needs to happen.
But if we don't do it, if we don't do it, it causes long-term problems. And also, it doesn't help with transparency with the public. And that, this is what this is about, is making sure we can build trust with the public. So they know we're doing our job, you guys are doing your job, and we're getting back to people. And, everybody that makes a complaint has a right for a department or us to get back to them and saying, they might not agree with the decision. It's not about the decision, but they have a right to be able to get back to them that some department looked at it and made a decision, and here's your decision. Instead of, oh, made a complaint 5 years ago, I never heard back. So that's what we're trying to avoid here. There's a lot to this, and you're right, but I do appreciate the input. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
I made a mistake on Bob Mechanics, services. It's next Saturday, not this Saturday at 1 o'clock.
All right, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.